At 7:58 in the morning on a calm December day, an earthquake hit off Sumatra with the force of 23,000 atomic bombs. It shifted an entire island and shortened Earth's day. Within 15 minutes, a wall of ocean taller than a 10-story building erased whole communities in Aceh. How did the deadliest wave in recorded history come from a fault line most had never heard of? And why did no one see it coming? At 7:58 in the morning, deep beneath the Indian Ocean, the Earth tore open along a hidden scar. The rupture stretched for nearly 800 miles along the Sunda Trench, where the Indian plate thrust violently under the Burma microplate. Seismic instruments measured a magnitude of 9.1, making it one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded. The shaking lasted between 8 and 10 minutes, an eternity in geological terms, and it released energy equal to 23,000 Hiroshima bombs. The epicenter lay nearly 19 miles below the ocean floor, just off the coast of northern Sumatra. The force of the quake was so immense it shifted the entire island of Sumatra by 100 feet to the southwest. The planet itself was jolted, Earth's axis tilted, and the length of a day shortened by almost 3 microseconds. In Banda Aceh, a city of 300,000, only 150 miles from the epicenter, the ground rolled and heaved. But what happened beneath the sea surface set in motion something even more deadly. As the fault ruptured, the sea floor lifted, displacing billions of tons of water in an instant. A series of waves began to radiate outward at jet speed, invisible and unstoppable, racing toward coastlines where life continued as usual. The true scale of the disaster was only just beginning to unfold. 15 minutes after the earthquake, the first wave slammed into the coast of northern Sumatra. In Banda Aceh, the morning quiet was shattered by a wall of water taller than a 10-story building. The surge crashed through homes, mosques, and markets, sweeping away everything in its path. In the town of Loch Nga, just west of the city, the destruction was almost total. Out of a population of 7,000, only about 400 survived. The water reached more than 100 feet above sea level, flooding 3 miles inland and leaving behind only splinters and silence. Official counts would later confirm that 61,000 people died in Banda Aceh alone, nearly a quarter of the city's residents lost in a matter of minutes. Entire families vanished. Streets and neighborhoods became unrecognizable, erased by the force of the ocean. Survivors described climbing to rooftops or running for the hills as the roar grew louder, but for most, there was no time. One man from Loch Nga remembered watching neighbors cling to trees and power poles as the current tore them away. The scale of loss defied comprehension, turning vibrant communities into wastelands. The wave did not stop. As it receded, it dragged cars, buildings, and bodies back toward the sea. The ocean, once a source of life, had become an engine of death. And beyond Aceh, the tsunami was still racing outward, gathering speed and heading for distant shores. 90 minutes after the earthquake, the waves reached the shores of southern Thailand. On the holiday beaches of Phuket and Khao Lak, families and tourists filled the sand, cameras in hand, watching as the sea pulled back to reveal a field of stranded fish and exposed coral. Many stood filming, unaware of what the receding water meant. Then, with almost no warning, a wall of water rose on the horizon. The first wave struck with such force that entire hotels vanished in seconds. Khao Lak's resorts, packed with Christmas travelers, were flattened. In the fishing village of Ban Nam Kem, the ocean swept away half the population, thousands lost in minutes. The official toll in Thailand would reach 5,395 dead, with another 2,817 still missing years later. Among the foreign victims, more than 500 were Swedish nationals, families who had come seeking sun for the holidays. Amateur footage captured the chaos as people ran for higher ground, but for many, there was nowhere to go. The day's joy turned to terror in an instant, leaving behind shattered communities and unanswered questions. Just before 9 in the morning, the Queen of the Sea train rumbled north along Sri Lanka's southern coast. The carriages were packed with families and holiday travelers, their journey tracing the shoreline as the sun climbed higher. No one aboard knew a tsunami was racing toward them, unleashed by an earthquake thousands of kilometers away. At Paralia, the train slowed for a routine stop. Locals gathered by the tracks, drawn by the holiday crowds. The first wave arrived with little warning, flooding the rails and prompting laughter and confusion. But a second, larger surge followed, then a third, towering over the palm trees. In moments, 8 carriages were torn from the tracks and swept inland, twisted and shattered by the force of the water. Nearly 2,000 lives were lost in that single incident, passengers and villagers alike. One survivor searched the wreckage for hours, calling out for her brother, her voice drowned by the chaos. Across Sri Lanka, the death toll climbed to more than 31,000, with thousands still missing. The waves left behind not just broken homes, but entire communities erased, and more than 1 million people suddenly homeless. In India, the waves struck with little warning. Along Tamil Nadu's coast, entire fishing villages disappeared beneath the surge. Marina Beach in Chennai, once crowded with families and vendors, became a scene of devastation. In the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the sea arrived within 20 minutes, swallowing settlements and leaving thousands unaccounted for. Across the Indian mainland and islands, more than 10,700 lives were lost, with nearly 6,000 still missing, many of them children and fishermen whose bodies were never found. But the destruction did not end there. The tsunami raced on, crossing the Indian Ocean at the speed of a jet. In the Maldives, islands vanished under the waves. Malaysia's Penang coast was battered, and in Myanmar, official counts masked a higher toll. 7 hours after the earthquake, the waves reached Somalia, pounding the African coast with 30-foot walls of water. In total, 14 countries were struck. The final toll was 227,899 people dead or missing. No other tsunami in recorded history has claimed so many lives, or left such a wide swath of loss across an entire ocean basin. Long before the waves arrived, the earthquake's violence was recorded by seismometers around the world. In Hawaii, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center detected the rupture within minutes. Their analysts issued a bulletin at 00:59 UTC, noting a massive quake off Sumatra but seeing no threat to the Pacific. In the Indian Ocean, there was no network of warning buoys, no protocols for rapid alerts. For decades, the Pacific had maintained a system of sirens and evacuation plans established after the 1960 Chile tsunami. The Indian Ocean had nothing comparable. In Bangkok, scientists at Thailand's meteorological department received data from Hawaii. They debated the risk, worried about disrupting the holiday season with a false alarm. No public warning was given. Across the region, the science existed. The signals were clear, but the chain of action stopped at closed doors. For millions on distant coasts, the silence would prove fatal. Across 14 countries, 1.7 million people lost their homes in a single morning. Families crowded into makeshift camps, while relief agencies scrambled to deliver food, water, and medicine. The United Nations led the largest humanitarian response in history, as more than $10 billion in aid poured in from around the world. In the aftermath, entire coastlines had to be rebuilt. Villages, ports, and schools rose from fields of debris, but the scars ran deeper than shattered buildings. In Thailand, 400 bodies remain unidentified, silent reminders of lives interrupted. To prevent another tragedy, the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System began operation in 2006 with new buoys, sirens, and evacuation drills. Memorial parks now stand in places like Ban Nam Kem and Banda Aceh, where survivors gather each December to remember those lost. For many, the pain never faded, but the world changed, determined that such silence would never fall again. Today, over 700 million people live in tsunami-prone coastal zones worldwide. Early warning systems now stand guard, but rapid urban growth and climate extremes raise new risks. The ocean's power is timeless, and our vigilance cannot lapse again. The disaster's lesson remains urgent. Awareness saves lives. What would you do with 15 minutes?